once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, and the dreams that you dreamed of, dreams really do come true. Someday you wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops, and high above the chimney tops, it's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow.
Thank you so much for attending our OFI High Tea this afternoon. So, I'm Nicole Hintz from LJ Hooker at Ormeau, and this is Kath. Now, Kath and I have known each other for over 13 years, I believe. We both lived in Ormeau, and just recently, Kath and I went to a trip to Borneo. Some of you went to Borneo with us. It was an amazing trip, and we got to see the orangutans. It was quite a confronting trip. Humans are cruel. And I'm quite emotional now, Kobe, that the day has come, so I'm trying to keep it together. So Kath and I were sitting on a, I don't even, what do you call it?
Clottock.
Clottock.
A bit loud, wasn't it?
Yeah. Going up the
Seconia River.
The Seconia River with some of you in the room today, and we're sitting there talking, having a few drinks, eating some delicious food, sweating. Like today, so it's quite fitting that it is quite hot. And we're talking and we're saying, what can we do to help these orangutans? And we said, when we get back to Australia, we're going to do something to help. We come back to Australia, and to be quite honest, I was overwhelmed. I couldn't talk about it for a couple of weeks. I had to process it, because when you land in Borneo and you see what little rainforest is left, it's quite confronting. And then you realise that it's because of the palm oil and because of humans farming the land and lots of different reasons. But I found it quite confronting. When I came home, I was like, what can little old me do? How can I make such a difference when so much needs to be done? And then Kath, thankfully, had been a few times, and she got me over there, and we said, okay, we'll do the high tea. So here we are today. So thank you very much for every one of you for being here.
So I'll tell you a little bit about my story and how I went to Borneo the first time. I had been, sorry, it's too loud in the background. I had been watching a television program, I think it was Sunday night? Yes, sorry. And Dr. Charlie Teo was featured in a program. He had been to Borneo, and I didn't know at the time, but Kobe had actually taken him on that trip. But I sat there and I thought, oh, I really want to go. I really want to push that wheelbarrow with those baby orangutans in it. And Dan looked at me like I was some sort of crazy woman, and I Googled and saw that there was a trip. And a little while later, I was at another function, and Kobe was the guest speaker at this function. And I went up to her and I said, look, I've seen this program. I really want to be able to help. I'll run a fundraiser for you. And she's like, okay, great, no worries. And of course, we had another lovely high tea here 4 years ago. And then I went to Borneo myself. And it's very emotional, isn't it? Absolutely moved by these beautiful creatures that we are destroying. It's heartbreaking. And it's all because of what we do and what we eat and what we put on our hair and our skin. And we just want to be able to help some way so that we don't lose these beautiful creatures. And I know that when you sit there and you look at an orangutan face to face, it just does something to your soul. It changes you forever. So it's a beautiful experience, and I think that's all I want to say. Thank you all very much for coming today, and please enjoy.
What's going to happen today, we've got a silent auction up the back, so the lovely ladies up there will help you. We've got raffle tickets. and we do have an auction. So we had one painting donated to us, which is over on the easel over there. That's from the Donald James Waters. He's a renowned artist, painted for the Queen. He's actually a local in our area, so he painted that with me 2 weekends ago with some Bundaberg liqueur. That was really good fun, and we've had it framed, and we have an artist in our room, and she's actually sitting at my table. So Sally, can you stand up, Sally? Come on. So she's donated today a painting over on the other table, which we'll ask Paul to. So lots of goodies and silent auction items up there. We've also got merchandise over in that corner. So lots of things from the OFI Foundation that are available, and it all helps. So we do have Kobe, who is the founder. She will be our guest speaker after we have our high tea, and she has an amazing story to tell. Just going to play a little video. It's my daughter is here today, Lily. She's quite embarrassed that I'm playing it, but I'm going to do it. She's actually wrote a song in the school holidays. She's 9, and Paul's actually from DCR Media has put some photos of Kath and our trip together with the music of Lily's song, and it's called Scars.
On the days where I don't feel like trying and I'm all out of luck, and the world kinda feels like it's crumbling, and I've had enough. And what do you do when you feel like you're not enough? Do I just stand inside, or do I pick myself up? You might hurt sometimes, but it won't be forever. Wounds heal into scars, then our stories last forever. Nothing can bring me down. Your words can't hurt me. Like star, I shine bright, I stand out in a crowd that's used to blending. And what do you do when you feel like you're not enough? Do I just stand inside, or do I pick myself up? You might hurt sometimes, but it won't be forever. Wounds heal into scars, then our stories last forever. You might hurt sometimes, but it won't be forever. Wounds heal into scars, then our stories last forever. You might hurt sometimes, but it won't be forever. Wounds heal into scars, then our stories last forever.
I'm going to introduce you to Kobe Steele she's the founder from OFI, so Orangutan Foundation International Australia. There you go, that's a big mouthful. So Kobe, come on up.
Okay, to you.
Hi.
Thank you. Am I loud enough? I'm probably too loud knowing me. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming along today. We're all here, of course, because of Kath and Nicole, and we are so grateful to them for putting this on for orangutans today. So before anything else, please can we give a hand to Kath and Nicole and to everyone else that's helping, all our volunteers. We've got quite a few volunteers, so I'm not going to go through and name you all if you don't mind, but thank you everybody so much. Okay, my name's Kobe and I am the founder and president of Orangutan Foundation International Australia. So I just want to tell you a little bit about my story, how I came to be involved with orangutans and what's happened since. So like probably all of you, I thought orangutans were the cutest thing ever, but they weren't part of my reality at all, going back, 10 years plus ago. My daughter and I shared, a love of cute baby orangutans, but that's where it stopped, and I've always been a huge animal lover, but I never for a minute thought that I would end up running a foundation for orangutans. In 2004, my beautiful daughter Kristen finished university here on the Gold Coast, and she, like lots of our children, she went off travelling. So she went to the States for a year, and then she went to London. She lived in London for a year, and then she moved to Amsterdam. And she was just, like lots of our Aussie kids do, she was just travelling her way around the world, working and just having a great time. She was in Amsterdam and she met the love of her life. She was 25 years old. They were together probably for about 18 months and they were about to get married. And she was so in love and she was so happy, and I was so happy for her. And she was working at Hard Rock Cafe in Amsterdam, and she was bicycling to work, as you do in Amsterdam. Everyone goes by bike. There's not many cars. And she was stopped at a red light, and she could see work, like it was there, and a big concrete truck came around the corner. He was in a bad mood that day, and he wasn't thinking about anyone else on the road. He swerved around the corner, and he crushed her. And so I got the call that nobody wants to get. She was my only child. She was my best friend. She was my reason for living. She really was my purpose in life. And I got that call that she'd been killed. And with that, as would happen to every one of you, my life just completely and absolutely stopped. It stopped. I literally cried 24 hours a day for 3 years. I just didn't stop crying. All I did was cry and cry and cry. Nothing was bringing her back. And I just felt absolutely nothing inside. I mean, I was just dead inside. I never ever felt happiness. I could go through the motions. I could come out and talk to you and smile, but it was completely fake. And because I just felt nothing ever. And I felt like I'd lost my identity and my purpose, because to me my identity was to be Kristen's mum. That was my reason for breathing. And so I'm fairly outgoing and confident, but I actually went completely into my shell, and I stayed at home. I became agoraphobic. I dreaded going out or seeing people because all I did was cry, and I thought that I would never ever be any different, and I thought I would never feel happiness again. I tried to commit suicide twice. Luckily I was unsuccessful, but I was really as far down as you can be. And what I have found, and some of you might have experienced this through your own things or through people but when you lose a child, people get really weird, and they don't know what to say to you, and they just don't know how to respond. And I was probably like that before as well, I don't know. But so because most people, when you walked into a room, just ran screaming from the room. They just didn't want to deal with you or have to speak to you. It was just too hard. So when people did stay and talk to me, I learnt to be very, very grateful. And no matter how insensitive what they said was, I knew that it was because they were awkward and they were grasping for anything just to talk to you about, and that they were feeling weird. And so I learnt to accept whatever anyone said without any offence, even if it was strange, and just to be grateful that they actually had the courage to sit and talk to me. And so that was kind of what was going on in my life. And then an old friend of mine, a guy called Stephen Van Mill, who used to be the Channel 9 Today vet, and he did a lot of animal documentaries. He flew over from Perth. He lived in Perth, and I hadn't seen him since Kristen had been killed, and we had dinner. And he could see how messed up I was, how I was just blech. And he said to me the strangest thing that anybody to date had said to me. He had just come back from Borneo after making an orangutan documentary called The Last Primate, and he said to me, "I'm going to take you back to Borneo and the orangutans are going to heal you." And that was the weirdest thing to date that anyone had said, because of course I was never going to be healed, and you know, how orangutans were going to do that was beyond me. Plus, I never left my house. I was agoraphobic, so that wasn't going to happen. So what I did is what I always do, is I completely agreed with him, said that would be the best thing ever, I can't wait, and then knowing that he would go back to Perth and I'd go home, and then I wouldn't have to think about it anymore. So God love him, and I'll be for eternally grateful. He was like a dog with a bone. So he got back to Perth, and he rang me, and he rang me, and he rang me, and I came up with a different excuse every single time for why I couldn't go. And then in the end, he just broke me down. He wore me down. I couldn't think of another way to say no. And so I decided that I would go to Borneo. And it was my 50th birthday, and so it was my gift to myself. I thought that maybe it would be good for me to actually get out of Australia and to be away from everybody I know, and maybe I'd heard about the magical healing that happens in the jungle, which is absolutely true, let me tell you. And so I thought maybe it would be a good thing for me to do. So I went off to Borneo, and I went on an eco tour, a little bit like eco tours that I take now, but probably not as long or as comprehensive. But I was so lucky at the end. I saw orangutans, and it was extraordinary. Anyone that's ever seen an orangutan will tell you that you never get over meeting an orangutan, and it's true. But at the same time, as I was going through this incredible week, I still absolutely felt dead inside. I just couldn't feel happiness. It didn't matter. I could feel awe and wonder, but I couldn't feel happiness. And so when the eco tour was over, I was so lucky that Stephen, because he'd made a documentary, had gone into the Orangutan Foundation International Orphan Orangutan Care Centre, and it's completely closed to the general public, so you can't normally go in there unless you come with me. But so I got to go in there, and I spent 2 days there. And on the very first day, we went to a place called Chimpadunk, which is the name of a camp, which is, I guess, like kindergarten for infant orangutans. So the age group was probably 3 to about 5 years old, and so at 3 we're talking about this size and up to about this size. So they're the cutest things you have ever seen in your life. And the kindergarten group is like our kindergarten kids on red cordial. They're just crazy and fun and funny, and so they're all going wild and crazy, and I couldn't believe that I was there. It was extraordinary. But there was one little orangutan in the back that wasn't playing and wasn't wrestling and being rough, and oh my God, he was so cute. He was absolutely as bald as a badger. He had no hair. Orangutans have hair, not fur, so they have hair like us. And what I know now, which I didn't know then, is that when orangutans are depressed or traumatised in any way, they won't eat. And then they, of course, get malnutrition, and then they lose their hair. So poor little Faisal had come into the care centre. His mother had been killed, as all the orphans' mothers have been, and he was considered simple. He wouldn't climb a tree. He wouldn't engage with people. And so they had told me that he was simple, and that he probably would never be rehabilitated, and that he was a really sad boy. And I looked over at him, and every bit of my maternal instinct just screamed out, to him. He was just so beautiful and so sad. And one of the things that you learn when you spend time with orangutans is that when they look at you, yes, they see you, they see what we see, but then they're just incredibly intuitive, empathetic creatures, and so they look straight into your heart. So they actually read you. They can read you so quickly. They can read your emotions. They read the kind of person you are, what kind of heart you have, and that sounds weird to you maybe, but once you've experienced it, you know that it's true, like you just feel it. So poor little Faisal was over there, and my heart was just crying for him, and then now I'll be Faisal. So Faisal was looking at me and going, I'm sure he was saying, oh my God, look at that sad, poor woman over there in the corner. She really needs help. And he was right. And so little Faisal came up to me, and I've got photographs of that day, and I'm so grateful for it. He came up and he climbed up into my arms, and this sounds silly, but this is what happened. He put his little face right here, so his eyes were here next to mine, so we were totally eye to eye. And he just stared into my eyes with such love and such beautiful feeling that lightning bolts of happiness just shot through me. It was actually like a physical reaction. I just was just so elated. I felt so joyful. I felt so happy, and I never ever thought that I could feel that way again. And it was this little orangutan that gave that back to me. I spent 2 days with him at the care centre, and another little baby orphan called Krista, who is now a big orangutan. So these two little orangutans took me off into the jungle for 2 days, and honestly, I had the most joyful time with them, and I can't explain it, but I came back me again. They gave me back myself because I'd lost me. I was completely missing in action. I came back to Australia. I'd been in trauma and grief counselling for however long. Every single week I cancelled that. I felt happiness again, and needless to say, I miss Kristen, my daughter, every single day of my life, and I still have bad days, where I will still cry all day. But the fact of the matter is that those two little orangutans and all the orangutans at the care centre actually gave me back my happiness, and they gave me back purpose. And I didn't know what to do, so I wanted to help the care centre because the work they do is extraordinary, and you being here today is helping. But we are donation only. No governments help us. So I did some research into the eco tour that I'd done and other eco tours, and that still exist, and there's many of them, and it's a fabulous experience no matter who you do it with. But what I did find out is the only people that I shouldn't be calling them people, the only beings that don't make any money out of the Borneo eco tours are the orangutans. All the tour operators and the hotels and the everyone else make the money, and the orangutans nothing. So I found that out by doing research. So I started at that stage doing eco tours, which I still do 2 a year to this day, and with every single cent other than cost going to the orangutans. So that's how I first became involved, because I just didn't know what else to do. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I don't know how many of you will know who I'm about to speak to, but the lady that started Orangutan Foundation International, the original founder, is a lady called Dr. Birute Galdikas, and she is, for one, it's a bad description, but it's the only one I can give you. She's the Jane Goodall of orangutans. Jane Goodall, Diane Fossey and Birute all studied together in America. They all were sent off by their mentor, Louis Leakey, to study the great apes. So he sent Jane Goodall off to Tanzania to study chimpanzees. He sent Diane Fossey off to Rwanda, it was at the time, to study gorillas. And of course you all know Diane's story because she was murdered. Unfortunately, no one knew of her until then, which is sad, but it's the way it is. And then the other person that was sent off was Birute Galdikas, and she's probably the least known of the three ladies, because she went off to Borneo in 1971, a young 24-year-old woman. She went up the jungle rivers just in a cutout canoe. She macheted her way. It took her took her a month and a half to get where we can go in 2 hours now. And she is still there to this day, studying orangutans. And the reason you know her less than the others, you know why you know Diane Fossey. Jane Goodall, amazing woman. She retired 20 years ago from being in the field, and as you all know, she's been on the speaking circuit raising awareness ever since. But Dr. Gaudakas, who I work with, stayed in the field, which is why you probably know her less. But because I'd been doing all this stuff and learning about orangutans, I'd learnt about her and her story, and she's the most extraordinary woman, and I desperately wanted to meet her. So I did this for a few years, and she was never there, and I never met her. And then at the end of 2012, hallelujah, I was in Borneo and so was she, and so we met. And at that time, she was trying to raise money to start what is now called the Orangutan Legacy Forest. At the time, she was trying to buy a village forest, a great big village forest that the palm oil plantations were trying to buy. And the village elders had told her that they would sell it to her and they wouldn't mind waiting, but they would only wait until December. And then if she hadn't raised the money by then, they would have to sell it to the palm oil plantations. So when we met, she was still $250,000 short. She'd fundraised all through the world, and she couldn't make it. And so she asked me to help her. God only knows why, but she did, which was great. And I heard myself say, don't worry, I'll go back to Australia and I'll raise the money. And so I went, I finished my tour and I came back to Australia in trepidation because I'd promised this. Anyway, God only knows how, but Kristen, my daughter, I totally believe, held my hand and helped me. So I did raise that $250,000, which was great, and we bought that forest and saved it. So that was fabulous. And so that's how I started Orangutan Foundation International Australia, so in early 2013. So it's been six years now, and with help, I've raised almost $2.5 million now, which is fantastic. Oh, it's okay. I don't need to clap for that. I'm just happy because the difference it makes in the lives of orangutans is huge. So I'm probably talking for too long, but I wanted to just tell you a little bit about the work at our care centre. I don't know how much you all know about orangutans, so forgive me if I'm telling you stuff that you already know. But because, and I'll get a bit preachy here, because all over the world we, mainly through ignorance, consume palm oil at alarming rates. Unfortunately, we have care centres in orangutan full of orphan baby orangutans. Because we consume palm oil, orangutans are losing their habitat at an alarming rate because, of course, they deforest the orangutan habitat because that is the best place to grow palm oil because it grows the best there. Basically, it grows fastest, you get the most oil per hectare. And so what happens is the palm oil plantations, legal and illegal, go in and they deforest the land and the orangutans are left homeless. And if you could imagine opening your front door tomorrow morning, getting out of bed and opening your front door and everything you know being gone, no cars, no roads, no trees, no houses, nothing, just devastation. And that's what happens to the orangutans. And there's no food, of course. So they're orphaned, and because they're absolutely starving and the mothers nearly always have a baby with them, they're desperate for food, so they wander onto the palm oil plantations because that is where they used to live and they're thinking they might find food. And they eat parts of the palm oil tree, which has no nutrition, but they're just desperately hungry. And of course, when they pluck bits of the palm oil tree, it kills it. So unfortunately, orangutans are considered agricultural pests, so they're killed. So they kill the mothers, and then they take the babies because the babies are glued to mothers. They have a hugely strong bond. They take the babies and they sell them into the exotic pet trade. And unfortunately, 8 out of 10 of the babies die. So the lucky ones, in inverted commas, end up in our care centres. And there's a few in Borneo. We have one, and there's two other big main ones. But then once that baby arrives, it doesn't know how to be an orangutan. So what we have to do is give them a surrogate mother, a human mother, because orangutans have to have love and closeness. They have to have that bond. They need love. They can't survive without love. And so the surrogate mothers take them on as their own children. And we use all the local village women. We have over 200 surrogate mothers in our care centre. And so they take the babies and they literally have to teach them everything that, like you teach your children. So they have to know how to climb a tree and what foods they can eat and how to build a nest. And just, if you think how much you teach your children, it's the same thing. But because we don't speak orangutan, it takes us longer. So it takes about 8 to 10 years to rehabilitate one orangutan. Right this minute we've got 330, or over 300, close to 330 in our care centre. And as we rehabilitate and release the orangutans back into the wild, of course we've got more coming in, so it's a bit of a vicious circle. So unfortunately, with the amount of palm oil the world is consuming, it's not decreasing. It's, we've just constantly got babies coming in. And as I mentioned earlier, absolutely everything is through donation. There is no government support from the Indonesian government whatsoever. We also manage the full orangutan population of 6,000 in the national park. We do all the feeding stations and the patrolling. So it's a huge job that we do. We've got 14 rehabilitation sites. We've got 18 feeding stations, and it all costs money. And so fundraisers, fostering orangutans, people ask what you can do. I mean, the first thing you can do is stop consuming palm oil and start reading your labels. In Australia, where it says vegetable oil on most food products or vegetable fat, you'll find that that's palm oil. If it wasn't palm oil, they put canola oil, sunflower oil, peanut oil, olive oil, because they're proud. But if it says vegetable oil or vegetable fat, 99% of the time that is palm oil. Any chance that you can actually look at a few products and say, for example, buy, I'm using this example, Dick Smith peanut butter instead of Bega, you'll be saving an orangutan. It's really easy to actually just flip over, and very quickly you learn the products that you can use and the ones you shouldn't. And in most cases, there is a product that's just as good that doesn't have palm oil. So the very first thing is don't use palm oil. Then, of course, supporting things like this, fundraisers. You can foster an orangutan, and they're fabulous Christmas presents, bit of a spruik. It's $100 a year to foster an orangutan. It's completely tax deductible, and you get photos and updates and stories, and you're actually helping a little orangutan to start their journey in life. Merchandise, just spreading the word, just making people aware of orangutans. And I mean, right now, it's a hard day for me to be standing here talking about please help orangutans, because we in Australia are just going through Armageddon right now with our bushfires, and we have so many local animals. I mean, obviously the koalas and all the other animals that are going through, what they're going through at the moment, and it's exactly the same in Borneo. We have the same fires, and so we just had a little male orangutan come in this week who's a victim. His name is Jezza, named after Jez there. He's a victim of the fires. His mother's just been killed in the fires, so the same as the koalas here. So I know there are so many animals that need our help, but please, if you could, just think about orangutans when you're buying foods in the supermarket, and when you've got nothing better to do, maybe you could go onto our website, Orangutan Foundation International Australia, and just read a little bit and just be aware, because they really, really need our help badly, and they're critically endangered. We've lost 80% of the orangutans in the world in the last 20 years, and they're going fast. So thank you for listening to me, and thank you for being here today. Thanks.
Thank you, Kobe. Okay, so Jason and I decided before we went to Borneo that we would adopt or sponsor two orangutans. So we were lucky enough when we went to Borneo to see both those orangutans. And I say see loosely because one of them's Kobe, and one of them's name's Tommy, and Tommy wanted to mate with Kobe, and Kobe would take off into the forest because Tommy was a little bit friendly. So we spent lots of time with Tommy, but Kobe, we didn't get too much time with it because she was too frightened of Tommy. So it's an amazing experience to actually see them that you actually get to sponsor. There's a lot of them that do need your help. You can see some photos that we play with the wheelbarrow if they come out of the infantry. And they are special. I had a special moment with one of the orangutans, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was raining. Nothing is ever glamorous in Borneo because it's so hot. It's raining, your hair doesn't do anything, your makeup melts off your face and everything else, but it's a wonderful experience. And so we went to the infantry on one of the last days, I think it was, and we were there with the orangutans, and this one came up to me, grabbed my hand and led me out to the forest, led me over the trees, under the trees. I hit my head, and then it started to go up the tree, and I'm like, I ain't climbing up there. So then it came back down and grabbed my hand. It was raining. I don't think it was Holland, but no. So I then bent down to tickle this orangutan, and it, I kid you not, looks deep into your eyes. And I was tickling him, and I'd get up and I'd stop, and he'd grab my hand. They're so strong, even if they're tiny, and he'd pull me back down, and then I'd have to tickle him again. And then there was puddles of water, and I was like, well, you're being cheeky, so I splashed him with water, and then he splashed me back with water, and then he started to leave me in the forest again, and I'm like, no, I'm not going up there this time, you're off on your own. So they are truly remarkable creatures, and they actually have 98% the same DNA as us as humans. So it's quite amazing to be with them. And who was the one we met in the forest? Siswi. Yeah, so she's actually famous. She's been in movies. If you ever want to watch movies, there's actually a movie over there on the merchandise stand. So have a look at it. They are amazing, and they do need our help because of the palm oil, unfortunately. So there's a few ways you can help today. The silent auction. We've done raffle tickets. We might actually draw the lucky door prizes. Can I have Kath?
Hi, my name's Diane. I work, blast you away there. I work with Kobe with OFIA. Just wanted to say that one of the prizes over there, or one of the things, silent auctions, is a rare bag, if anyone knows what a rare bag is. It's made from recycled material. They're made by a guy called Rudd, and he lived out at Drake, and he lost his house in the fires. So if you'd like to help Australia as well as help us, we get $10 for every bag that you order through our website or through his website. That is an OFIA bag, so it's a bag that comes with our company logo on it. You're not only helping us, but you'll be helping Rod get back on his feet as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all? Haven't we heard some amazing stories this afternoon? Now, I've been asked to help someone become the proud new owner of this magnificent painting. David Waters painted it. I've just read his little story. Donald Waters, there we go. I read it well, didn't I? Donald Waters, and that painted for the Queen, painted for a number of famous people, commissioned work for the government. He's been given the Order of Australia Medal for his efforts in both the arts and the community, so quite an amazing man and quite a talent. I was just telling David here that I just met. I used to get the strap at school for my art ability, so I take my hat off to anyone who can do this sort of thing. But folks, short and sweet, who'd like to become the owner of this painting? How much are you prepared to spend? Let's have some fun. Who'd like to give me an opening bid or an offer, please? Just how much, madam? We've got two 500s. Is that each, or? She was 100, you're 500. We've got $500, folks. Nicole's about to become the owner, but I'm happy to take an increase. Is there $1,000 here somewhere? Straight to 1,000, what do you think? Got a 500 to start. That's a good bid. Little rule, we're not going to let certain people go home if they haven't had a bid here today. Good on you, David. Thank you. 600 now. 600, where do we go? 700 I'll take. Happy to round you up to 1,000 if that helps. 800, sir, thank you very much. Front table, 800 is the bid. Coming back, David. I've got 800 now. If you go 90 or go 1,000, you better grab the 1,000 while you can. 800 I've got. All right, at $800, Look around. That lady that wanted to start at 100, that was just a little warm-up one. Would you like to come back now? Not now? All right, $800. I know there's a fair few Elger Hooker people here that earn some pretty good money. What are we thinking, folks? This would look good in any lounge room, I would think. $800 we're bid. Selling here, folks. Am I selling, Nicole? I am, if I have to. At $800, folks, call for an increase. First call, second call. The kids have got their hands up. I don't think they've got the money, though. At $800, are you all silent, all done? I think so. Put your hands together. Sure, sir. $800. Congratulations. A wild orangutan. All right. Let's get wild. Someone give me a bid, please. 250's you. Thank you, madam. 250. What else have we got out here for the wild one? I can see Clint Eastwood somewhere in the background there. 250. Any increase? 300 someone. $250. First call. Second call. Don't think of it as a painting. Think of it as a treasure. At $250. First, second, third call, all silent. What do you think? Might be it. Sold. Congratulations. Well done. I'll put that back for you if you like. Would you like this now?
Woke up this morning, smiled with the rising sun. 3 little birds hitched by my doorstep, singing sweet songs, a melody's pure and true. Singing, this is my message to you. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Rise up this morning, smiled with the rising sun. 3 little birds, each by my doorstep, singing sweet songs, a melody's pure and true. Singing, this is my message to you. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Be alright, be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing